Let's continue with 2.1.3 of module 2.1. In this tutorial, we are going to understand about the system prompt and user prompt. So what is system prompt? System prompts are defined by the developer, tester, whosoever using large language model. You can define system prompt. These prompts, the system prompts, are invisible to end users in most chatbot interfaces. Now these system prompts, they act as a predefined command set guiding overall LLM behavior. So what is the purpose of system prompt? It establishes the tone, personality and operational parameters, sets the rule for the entire conversation. So for example, you started the conversation as a tester, you define system prompt once and the LLM then knows that tone or how it should go ahead and respond all your further queries in that instance. So the purpose of system prompt is that it establishes the tone, the personality, the operational parameters, etc. It may include structured prompt parts, for example, the role, context, constraints. Structured prompt you can utilize to set up the system prompt as well. For example, using a formal tone, keeping answers concise, respecting domain specific rules or avoiding certain behavior. You can specify these details in the system prompt. For example, use a formal tone to answer any of the further queries in this instance that I am working in with the LLM. For example, how you will set the system prompt? You are a professional software testing assistant. Always respond clearly, use formal language and focus on ISTQB aligned practices. Avoid speculation and cite testing principles wherever relevant. Now this is one prompt wherein you are setting the context, the initial context of how the future response should be from the LLM. So you do it once wherein you are saying consider yourself, or you are guiding LLM to consider itself as a professional software testing assistant, to respond clearly, avoid any informal language, use the formal language and focus on ISTQB aligned practices. So this is how you will be setting the system prompt, and this will be set just once when you start the conversation. Now what are the user prompts? User prompts are the input or the questions provided by the chatbot's user. So you set the system prompt, then you as an end user start the usual prompts to get the answers, and the LLM will respect the tone that you have asked in the system prompt. For example, it will then answer any future queries that you want to ask in a formal way, whatever we have specified initially. Okay, so you'll say use formal language, focus on ISTQB aligned practices. So all of that will be remembered and your answers will be accordingly provided by the LLM. Now user prompts are visible and change with each iteration or interaction. So in the user prompt, you ask one prompt to generate the test cases for login feature, then you came back and asked another question to generate test cases for the logout functionality or the checkout functionality. So user prompts will be visible whatever you are asking, and then they'll change with each interaction. While the system prompt, you just set that context once and in the background that has been set by the large language model and will be respected in any of the user prompts in that whole conversation. User prompts directly shape the immediate context for the responses. What is the purpose of the user prompts? It contains specific instructions, tasks or questions, and it guides the LLM to produce focused, relevant outputs, and should be well structured with explicit instructions and context. Now in the user prompts, the prompt should follow the guidelines. The 6 key components should be there in the prompt. Even in the system prompt, you can use those 6 key components to set the initial context. In the user prompt, you follow all of those guidelines, then you use any of the techniques that we have discussed: zero shot, one shot, meta prompting, any of the techniques in the user prompts to get the answer. So example of the user prompt: list the key differences between black box and white box testing with example. Now with this user prompt, because you have set the system prompt to provide answer in a formal tone with ISTQB aligned principles, so any differences that now the LLM will provide for the black box and white box testing with example will be aligned to the ISTQB principles and in the formal tone. So that's the correlation between system and user prompt. System prompt once, then you further in that instance you can follow the user prompts to get the answers, and LLM will respect the details that you have set in the system prompt. Now how both of these work together: system prompt is set once at the start of the conversation and defines the framework. User prompts are sent successively for each interaction. Okay, so system prompt once, I want answers in the formal tone. That's once you set it. Then any further conversation in that context will be the user prompts. And user prompts, you do one query, then first prompt, second prompt, and you can keep doing further prompts for the user prompt. LLM considers both together to generate the responses. So both are considered together to generate responses, even though you have set the system prompt just once. But any user prompt which you are using further is actually considering the system prompt which you have set in the initial context in that chat window. What are the best practices? System prompt should be clear, specific, define role and constant. So following the prompt components even for the system prompts will be really helpful. User prompt should be focused, structured, and include context and output format. For example, in the system format, we can say you are a software testing assistant, use ISTQB practices, use the formal tone for the answers. In the user prompt, generate boundary test cases for a login form. Then in that case, LLM will respond, provide ISTQB aligned test cases, concise and formal. Okay, because you have set the system prompt, so it will remember the context of the system prompt as well as user prompt and provide you the answer for the user prompt. Okay, together system and user prompt ensure consistent, accurate and context aware outputs. So that's how these two work together, and we'll understand this with the hands-on exercise as well. So that's all about the system prompts and user prompts and how they are being used together. Thank you. See you in the next tutorial.